Chaplain Mark, thanks for being on Walking as Lions. For
You're
those who are
welcome.
just plugging in, we're just having a blast, so it's
Yes.
good. It's good.
Yes.
So I met Chaplain Mark at a motorcycle race last year, in January of last year, and that was the first time that I had been up to a motorcycle race. So how it all worked out, I don't know if I probably told you the background on it. I had some friends who raced motorcycles, and they were going up there, and I used to race on the track, and so um, I just randomly asked, "Do they need a chiropractor up there?" And so I started going on the mobile. There's a Facebook page for mobile chiropractors, and so I went on there just asking, "Hey, does anybody go to motorcycle races? Like, what should I expect? What as a chiropractor, what should I bring?" And so that's where Dr. Brian had plugged in, and he said, "Hey, just, this, that, and the other." And so then I get up there, and I didn't realize that you were going out to all of the MotoAmerica races and stuff. And so you already knew who he was. And that was really cool. I adjusted you, and we just, talked about God and Jesus and all of that stuff, and it was awesome. And then got plugged in with Dr. Brian because of you. So I appreciate that plug in.
Yeah, that worked out good. I met you. It was at Jennings. I don't know what they call it. What do they call it? Jennings Motorsports,
No,
Jennings
Jennings GP.
Raceway, Jennings G Grand Prix Raceway. So,
Yep.
anyways, this down in Florida, and I had gone there for it wasn't my first time there, but it was first time for that race, the Separano endurance race.
Yeah.
Anyways, I knew a lot of the people there, and so the people I didn't know, I was, try to meet them or whatever. And you came. I remember you walking through the paddock, and I'm like, man, I don't ever remember seeing a female racer like this here. So I finally found you and met you, and you were with your all your chiropractic stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay. All I can rem all I well, there's a bunch of stuff I can remember. First of all, I asked if she could do, like, work on my back and stuff, thinking that I don't really need it, I just wanted to support her. Oh my gosh, I was a mess, yeah. I felt like a new man when I walked away from that, but what I really enjoyed was our conversation. I don't know if I've asked a person that I just met as many personal questions as I ask you. I thought, "This woman is never gonna talk to me again." It was
Well, being in the
awesome.
military, you get really personal, and you just, feelings and all of that just go away. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, and you're a chaplain too. So, that kind of comes with the territory, right? Is here's somebody that you're supposed to be able to trust, and you could just be an open book and just tell you things, kind of like the same thing with me. If somebody's got an issue, like there's HIPAA standards, and I can't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Yeah,
it just comes with the territory.
yeah, and as a chaplain, obviously the thing I love to do is help people. Ultimately, I wanna help people to get to God, but sometimes people aren't or a lot of times people aren't interested in that. So, but I like to help them in whatever. I can't help them unless I know them. I have to know, like, whatever they'll tell me, I'll take because it helps me to help them if I know what's going on in their life and what's the good and the bad. Yeah.
100%, 100%. So I wanna bring you in, and introduce you. So Chaplain Mark, you're actually a native of Des Moines, but you were living in Bakersfield, California, after serving as a full-time pastor for over 27 years. He became a full-time chaplain with Raceline Ministry alongside his wonderful and beautiful wife, Dawn, who I've met. She is awesome. He
He's
coupled his
wonderful.
passion for the Lord and motorcycles in an unconventional way, traveling with MotoAmerica and WERA racing circuits, traveling to over 15 states each year. He ministers to professional and club level motorcycle road racers, leading chapel services on Sundays, establishing relationships and trust with the riders, pit crew, vendors, track officials, and their families in order to be able to care for their needs and to share with them the life changing truth of God's word in a casual and non threatening way. And that is so amazing. So, um, everybody needs God, right? So what was that calling like to start with this and say, you know what? I love motorcycles. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna just go to all these races. How did you get it on board with that? How did that start?
Well, that's a great question. I could talk about this for hours, but I'll try to concise it down because it's exciting to me, and all of and anybody when God takes you from one thing to something else, it's usually quite a story. So I had been, like you said, a pastor. I was a worship leader most of the 27 years, well, all of the 27 years as a pastor. I did music, I did choir, orchestra, lighting, videos, responsible for what happened. In a sense, I was like Michael, your producer. I produced the service, and I had to make sure that all of it went well. And so I did that for a long, long time. And towards the end of that, I started wondering kind of, I don't know, not losing my love for ministry, but for my passion specifically of leading worship. And I didn't know if that was my own fault or if God was moving me. And so obviously all my whole life, I'm actually at a town right now where I first got introduced to a motorcycle. Rode my first mini bike just down the street from here, and that was it. From that point on, I just loved motorcycles,
I
like
love when that happens.
to this day. So, anyways, so I had this passion for motorcycle riding, and I love it. Motorcycles, just in general, not anything specific at that time. And I started thinking, I probably the thing that got my attention the most was I did in 2008, I did a ride that's called the 48 in 8. So I did all 48 states in 8 days on my motorcycle. So all lower 48 states. Well, it gave me a lot of time to think about this kind of losing of my passion or just I don't know. I knew God was stirring my life and I just didn't know why. And so I started thinking about motorcycle ministry. I didn't know if that meant ministry to like to Hell's Angels or ministry to some kind of racing, or I had no idea what that looked like, but it sounded really interesting to me. So over the next year, I went to a MotoGP race at Laguna Seca, and AMA Pro was there, which is the series I work with. They've changed their name to MotoAmerica, but it's that series. And I met some of the real young racers then that are still racing now. And I was at the track. I was meeting people. I had an all access pass, so I could go out on the grid. I could do everything, and I loved it. And I thought to myself, how cool would it be to take my love for God and love for people and take that to the racetrack? And as I said it, I laughed and I thought, yeah, right. Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's like saying to a golfer, how would you like to golf every day and tell people about Jesus? Who wouldn't want to do something you love? That's, a hobby, I guess, and take that to it just didn't make any sense to me. So I went home, shared it with my wife, Dawn, and she thought it was the greatest idea ever. And I'm like, what? This is the woman. Listen, Jessica, this is the woman who I married. And a year later, when I decided to get my very first motorcycle, she said, over my dead body. And she wasn't smiling. I'm
Did you
thinking,
get it anyway or
I'm thinking, can I get an annulment? Is there any way out of this marriage so I can get a motorcycle? No, obviously I was not thinking that, but I was pretty discouraged. Well, now she's all in. I'd had a motorcycle a year later after we got married. She let me get one. And anyways, she thought it was great. She's the one that went and started doing all the studying, like motorcycles, motorcycle ministry. What does that look like? And she found motorcycle chaplains, motorsports chaplains, car chaplains. truck racing chaplains, MRO, motor racing outreach. They are the people who run the NASCAR's chaplain agency. So, yeah. So I'm like, oh wow, well this is actually real. People do that. I couldn't figure out how I could do that and ministry at the same time. I wasn't thinking of it doing it separately. Long story short, 2 years later, after praying about it, and we were in Bakersfield at that time, we decided to, you know what, we've been praying about this thing for 2 years. Let's just try to open the door and see what happens. And a friend of mine, Scott Tillery, who is my mechanic and also a racer on the West Coast, he told me about WERA, and I contacted them. I said, hey, I don't know if you guys need a chaplain or even want one, but we're selling everything. We're getting rid of everything. We're going to eventually leave our ministry, and we want to come to the track and just serve and minister to people on the racetrack. And, Evelyn Clark responded back and said, I've read your email 3 times. I can't believe you want to do this, but if you want to do it, come on. And we don't have any money for you, but we would love to have you. And that's kind of how it started. And we started raising money beginning of 2012. And in March 2012, our very first time to serve was at Daytona in Florida. So, and then, yeah, the rest is history. It's been almost, we're on our 15th season of serving the Lord.
That's awesome. That is so cool. So you just, I just saw, were you in, you were at Barber in Alabama and you did a baptism.
Yeah, that was at Road America. Yeah, this past
WorldAmerica, yeah,
weekend.
so you did a baptism. So
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit more. That's so cool because you're leading chapel on Sundays. So all the
Yes.
racers and families, because all the racers, whenever they're there, they bring their families. They got these big, huge like motorhomes and things like that, and stuff. So all the families come along. So that's really cool because once you get the families on board, it's really just it's so much. I don't want to say it's never not meaningful, but when family unit gets together, it tends to be a lot stronger with
Yeah.
when it comes to faith.
Yeah, it's you said it there. It's all about for me just building relationships with people, just becoming friends and interacting. A lot of times it's just having fun, talking and telling jokes and ribbing each other. But there's quite a few times where they'll once they get to know you, they'll start bringing their issues and problems and difficulties to try to figure out how to work through them. And so yeah, so you have you don't just have the racer, you have the racer's wife or the racer's girlfriend or the racer's husband or boyfriend if it's a female rider. You have their families, their extended families, then you have that with each one of the mechanics. You're getting to know them and their families, and it just goes on and on. So there could easily be, like at Road America, I know there's easily 1,500 people in that paddock, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you're trying to you obviously can't talk to every single one of them for any length of time, but you try to make yourself available. Anyway, so back to the baptism question. I'm gonna go back a couple years ago. So over the past, or I guess back in October of last year, I finished my master's program. That thing, let me tell you.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Well, number one, I am not an academic. It's very clear. I did very well. I did okay, but it was a nightmare. So, but super good. But what at the end of that, I felt really, I have to be honest, I felt kind of horrible. I felt horrible because I was a horrible husband. I was a husband that was present physically, but not present any other time. I'm literally 6 feet away from my wife working at my desk, and she's over laying on the bed, in the evening watching TV or whatever, working on Bible studies or whatever she's doing, and we're literally texting each other back and forth 6 feet away because I've got my headset, listening to music, and I'm studying, and she'll text me, "Hey, do you think you have time to go out to eat tonight?" No, I have to have this done, It was terrible. And so it was rough on my wife, and it was rough on the motorcycle community because I had things due every single week, and I had to go in my camper and sit there and do homework while stuff was happening in the paddock. And anyways, at the end of that, I was thinking, man, I hope I can get this stuff all going again and I didn't do too much damage. And I started thinking about some of the things the Lord had done. And long story short, I thought of over that 2-year period of time, there were 14 people that had come and given their life to Jesus. And I thought, "Oh my gosh." And my first thought was, okay, God didn't really need me at all, you know. So he used chapel services and conversations and counseling and listening to people to bring 14 of my friends to Jesus Christ. And so I got talking to all of them and saying, hey, start working on getting them involved in churches in their local area. And then I started talking to them about getting baptized. And I'm like, hey guys, and most of them were like, yeah, we've been thinking about it, but we just didn't know what to do because they're also in the racing community and don't get to go to church a whole lot. So back in August at Road Atlanta, one of our racetracks just outside of Atlanta, we baptized 8 people in a little baby pool that was barely enough water to put them down. So, yeah. And in the past, there's been a number of people we've baptized in the past in rivers that are like right next to the racetrack and stuff. So that's been going on for a while. But while I was at Barber, this is no, not Barber, excuse me, at Road Atlanta again this year for MotoAmerica, Hayden Gillum and I started a conversation at midnight. His camper was next to mine. Hayden Gillum, if you don't know Hayden, he's one of our very top riders at
Right, yeah.
MotoAmerica professional. Yeah, he's an amazing person. He'd given his life to the Lord a number of years ago, but had never followed the Lord in baptism. So we talked for about an hour and a half about that. And he decided that it would be cool if myself and Raymond Rizzo, another chaplain who chaplains for AMA Pro Flat Track, if the two of us could baptize him. And that's what happened last Friday night at Road America. And we had, I don't know, a whole bunch of people that came up to the trailer and we had it was lasted like 10 minutes and shared from the word a little bit. And both Raymond and I baptized him in a little pool there. And I think well over 5, maybe close to 6,000 people now have watched it online. And
I
so
know, I
it's
watched it,
really,
I was one of them. I thought that was so
yeah,
cool.
it's so cool because it's cool what God did in Hayden's life, but it's just a great testimony that's like spreading everywhere. That, you know, God's not just working in churches, he's working out at the racetrack too. So yeah,
All over, yeah, yeah, like,
all over.
I wanna say in the trenches, but yeah, in the trenches. So,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And I love how you wrote, to me, for in your bio that, you know, it what did you say? It says, "It may seem like an unusual concept to consider the world of motorsports as a mission field, but everywhere is a mission field. Whenever you leave church, there's a couple of churches up here that have the sign up as you're leaving. It says, "Welcome to the mission field." It literally says that.
Yeah.
So, you're just going
Yeah.
out into the world, and just because you're racing, I did not realize there was I did not realize this that there were chaplains at all of these racing events. It kind of makes me think about other athletic events like um, you know, in the NFL or at some of our amateur teams because we've got a lot of amateur teams here in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And and so it kind of just piques my interest like are there people out there praying
Yeah.
over our teams all
Yes,
over?
there is.
And
Yeah, there's
yeah.
chaplains there's chaplains in the NBA, there's, chaplains in the NFL, there's chaplains, for pro baseball. Yeah, it's very unique, you know, it's hard to explain what we do because you think I mean, I had a pastor who supported us for a while, and then he quit supporting us, and he told his men that I'm not supporting Mark's hobby anymore. I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, I think he didn't understand what's happening. So let me just say this. So when we go to the track, it I don't there are probably most of the time I don't see any racing. I don't see any of that. I hear it, and I might, as I'm passing somewhere, I'll see it on the TV like it's happening, or I'll go to my camper where my wife. I'll explain what my wife does for me. I'll see it in our camper on the television. I am way too busy serving people and ministering to people and trying to get to know people or talking through issues or whatever to ever sit and watch a race. So I love it. I love the racing and stuff, but that's not what I do. And so so it's hard to understand that until I bring someone. I bring someone and say, "Hey, just come to the track and just follow me around. We'll just arm in arm. And you can ask questions." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, I had no clue." And these are people I have told for years, people who have been supporting me for years, saying, "I had no idea what you were doing." And so it's hard to explain. And you saw it. I mean, you saw at least a little bit of it, the few times you were there at the track. It's very busy, it's very loud, a lot of stuff going on. And so, you know, I don't know. So just wanted to share a bit
Yeah,
of that.
no, for sure. The first time I went down, for Daytona last year, Dr. Brian had invited me down, and I thought it was really cool, so I hung out in the tent, and I call it the medical tent 'cause I I go back to the military, they're
Yeah.
like, "You go to
Yeah.
the medical tent." But, you know, in the medical area, so that's where we hung out, and it was very busy. People were coming in between races, because you have the different categories. If people don't know about motorcycle racing, there's your different classes or categories, right? And then they would come in after their race and then need to get an adjustment or even, see a physical therapist because they've had prior injuries on injuries on injuries on injuries that they just need, to get your band-aid to go back out there and be, to go race and stuff. And so yeah, to be able to get the attention of people because it is very dynamic. It's, you were talking about your pit crew, so you're going out there, there's a pit crew, something happens to the motorcycle, they're constantly like, it is so busy. And so, yeah, I went out and got to see some of the racing, but I didn't get to sit on the stand, so you just kinda sit there and watch the race go by, "Oh, there goes the motorcycles," and then that's it. You don't get to see the whole entire thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
You see one
So
small part of it. Yeah. If you're watching
one
at
small
all.
part
Yeah.
of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would tell people like, "Yeah, I'm going out there, I'm one of the chiropractors out here for the motorcycle." "Wow, that's really cool." You can say, I'm like, "I don't know, I'm just adjusting people, like, I'm still working," So but it's fun. It was so fun. Dr. Brian had to come back this year, so I didn't get to go a lot, so
We need to kick him out. Kick him out and bring Dr. Jessica back in. Yes. No, I'm just
Bring
we
Justin
need to make
back,
room
yeah.
for both of you. There's room for both of you there.
Yeah, we need to raise some funds. Yeah,
I
for
know.
sure.
I
But
have
he's
to tell
great. I
I
mean,
gotta
I
tell
don't know if there'd really be a lot of room for 2 because, it's you're in a short little space, but yeah, he's awesome.
yeah, so I have to tell my Dr. Jessica story. It was great. So,
Okay.
yeah, you can't edit this out. Don't edit it out. I'll be really angry.
We're laying it all out on the table. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, literally laying it out on the table. So, this was at Coda last year, and man,
Yeah,
my back was messed up. It's always messed up. Jessica probably could work on my back, like, every day, and,
I have
so
told you the first time I met you, you need to go to your chiropractor more
I
often when
know.
you go
I
home.
don't have any time to do it. I don't have any time. Anyway, I go in there and, I'm not a small person. That's why I'm glad he's just showing, like, my giant head. The rest of my body's way bigger. So, she gets me on this table, and I can't remember how she did it. She put me on my side, and, I could tell she was trying to figure out how in the world she was gonna adjust my back or crack it or whatever the terms you use. And she literally like jumped. jumped up with all of the weight of her body on me, and it was awesome, and she called it the flying John Cena move. Oh, I said, "Wha" I said, "What was that?" "That's the flying John Cena," or something like that. So that's how I remember it, and then, of course, yeah, 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 it wasn't just her elbow, it was like she stood on top of the what was the thing around that arena, the fence or whatever, and fell down,
Oh,
wham!
yeah.
On the
It's a
and
jump
then
rope.
she turned me around and did it again. Yeah, it was great. So, the flying John Cena. I'll never look at John Cena the the
There
same
you
again.
go. Just Cena. I should call it Just Cena.
Just Cena. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, she's very good
Yeah.
at what she does, by the way. She's very, very good, and so go see Doctor Jess to get yourself adjusted. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I remember last year we were sitting down and chatting, it was my first year there, so nobody really knew. I don't think there had ever been a chiropractor up there, and they were doing that for a while, so nobody really kinda knew, but this year in January, man, it was busy, which is great, it was
Oh,
fun,
oh,
aside from my dog getting sick, but that's another story.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, last year, you remember you were talking about being in your master's program, so what was that master's for again?
It was for what I do. It's a Master of Arts in Chaplaincy, and so
Okay.
just, half of it was dealing with, people, being a chaplain, the history of chaplaincy, where does it come from, and then just dealing with people, being a chaplain. Some chaplains have to work in an area where there's other chaplains and other chaplains of different faiths. So how do you work in those situations? And a lot of just chaplainy type of things. And then the other half was like theological training, like biblical training, how to study the Bible and a lot of different aspects of the Bible. So it was really good. Um, I would if it was the only thing that I did, I wouldn't say that it was like super difficult. There were certain classes that were very hard, but it was time consuming. So the chaplain work, I would say I'm already, I don't know, anywhere from 60, 70, 80 hours a week just doing chaplain stuff. And then that added another probably 25 hours a week. And so my days were just long. I mean, I don't know. I'm not complaining. It's just the reality, 18, 20 hours a day for 2 years. So it was just rough on the body, rough on my wife, rough on the ministry, family and friendships too. It just, yeah, just took a lot of time. So it was good. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself, learned a lot more about chaplaincy, and now I'm using that to build. I'm in the middle of building a training process for chaplains who work with me in motorcycle road racing. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's, I was gonna say you had brought up it was hard, but, so I've been there, and
Oh,
when I first met you, I just laid it laid it all out on the table, I just gave you my whole entire life story, and, I've been there back and forth, but it really takes, I think, in a marriage, and people, I think, kinda don't think about this with pastors and chaplains and people that are in ministry at some capacity, like you're human too. So you still have to, kind of figure out that balance. But that's where I don't like the word, life work or whatever balance, because it's never going to be 50-50, and it's not 50-50 all the time. There's going to be some times where it's like, okay, we're going to do this. And so if you have that, in my eyes, if you have that strong foundation in a marriage, in any relationship, then you can get through those hurdles, because I'm pretty sure now, yeah, it's hard going through it, just like, whatever life situations you have, you go through the fire, but then you come out on the other side of it and you're like, oh, I did it. Okay. And now it's probably like nothing, like, yeah,
yeah,
we got through this, and we're back.
yeah,
And so there's
yeah,
sacrifices.
yeah.
And so it
It's
takes a
true.
strong person, like a strong wife and a strong husband to be able be understanding and supportive.
Yeah. And so we're excited because almost like just before the master's program started, we took on our daughter and our grandkids in our home. And we love them to death. And we have an older daughter and a son in the middle between the daughters. And but anyways, her and her two children, because of their family situation, which was a mess, they came and lived with us. So we have that responsibility of taking care of them and through that. So I guess probably my biggest weakness, and you can edit this out later so no one has to hear it. So is that I can do a way better job of taking care of like other people, people in the racing community, that I take care of the people in my own family, and I don't know why I do that, but it's a constant something that I have to work at, paying attention to my wife and her needs and what she has. And because she's with me all the time, but over the past few years, we've had to separate because she's had to stay home and take care of the kids or our daughter, and then I've had to go on my own, which it's the promise that we made to each other we would not do coming into this, and yet it happened. And so now, actually, this is the first summer in 3 or 4 years that her and I are traveling the whole summer by ourselves and, not have the kids with us. We've always had the kids with us in summer for about 3 months, and it's a lot. It's a lot of traveling and stuff. So anyway, so I'm working really hard to make sure that I pay attention to her and give her what she needs and love her, because there's no way I can do pretty much anything in my life without her. Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, no, you hear that a lot, and in the chiropractic community, when we go out to seminars or things like that, a lot of people talk about um leaving your stuff at the door whenever you go see your patients. And I think sometimes whenever we get home, we put that back on and then go home with it, and we forget,
yes,
like, maybe we should hang that stuff up at the door too. But I think it's when you go home, that's your community, that's your people. These are the people that you can, I don't wanna say be a punching bag to, because we don't wanna do that, it's not what it's called, but, just unravel and say, "Hey, this is what happened today," and then you wanna kinda talk to them about it and just kind of get all this stuff out, and sometimes we put a lot on our loved ones because we want to be able to talk to them, because you're not gonna go out in the world and talk to the people the same way that you talk to your spouse, right? And they're lucky enough to be able to see that side of you that you're not gonna show anybody else, and
yeah,
I think I think for somebody to be able to see all of the sides of you and know those intimate, like, deep, dark places where you have the hardest time, and to help you through it, I think that's really important to have. But when you were bringing that up about treating other people better, we talk a lot about, like, okay, think about those people that you're adjusting and trying to help restore life to, and would you treat your family the same way, or would you treat your family better? So I know there are times where I would get frustrated sometimes because I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing, but then I remember, like, I have to leave my stuff at the door, and what I started doing was praying about it. So when I leave the house, have a prayer of protection over my patients from what's going on in my life, so that way I can hang up my stuff at the door and think about whenever I would see my brother and sister and they need an adjustment, and am I gonna assess them in a loving way, and am I gonna do that with somebody else? So that just kinda reminded me of that, like, treat those people like you would with your family. And that kinda went, like, that interchanged, because you wanna go out and you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do the best job for people because I want them, I wanna love on people." And then come home and be like, "Oh, man, I'm home, whatever."
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So I kinda it just kinda worked hand in hand that way. So when I would start loving on people that way, I just remembered, like, "Oh, I have to love my family the same way because I'm treating them better. Why would I not treat my family, just as good, if not better?"
yeah, yeah. And I think I would say too, maybe the best word for me wasn't treating them better. It that's probably true sometimes, but it was also the time. the time I give them, I'm not giving
Yeah.
that much
Mhm,
time when I come home,
mhm.
sometimes, or I'm exhausted when I get home. Well, now I'm not really going home. I mean, I don't go home now until middle, end of August. So, but my wife's with me, so we're together. So, but what part of my problem is that I have to figure out how to regulate is I am far more busy during the week with the racing family than I am at the racetrack. So, fielding calls and messages of people that are hurting or going through things or have questions about issues of life from anything that you can imagine. And so, which I love doing that. And but sometimes it's so much that I have to do what you just said. I've just got to hang it up. I got to turn my phone upside down and the volume down and sometimes turn it off so I can go and spend half a day with my wife and do something fun or hang out together or, answer questions or figure out what we're going to do, the next day or this next week. Where are we going to stop between this racetrack and this racetrack? Where are we going to live, So, anyways, so that's something I have to do a better job of and be a little more organized and disciplined in. So, yeah.
Well, I think that, being a chaplain with, motorcycle racers, I think that's just the coolest thing. And, like I said, I never even thought that when I first met you last year, and like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." And I thought it was a hobby. I know you did, but then, after I was around it more often, I was like, "Oh, wait, this is real. This is so cool." Not that it wasn't real. It was just like, this is what you do. And it's appreciated. It's appreciated. And um you're right. Jesus needs to be everywhere. And I think about sometimes, especially when you sent me that bio, I just kind of started thinking about it again. One of the pastors at my church that I'm going to, he would say, if your ministry is being a chiropractor, then figure out how to bring Jesus into that as well. And you can bring Jesus into anything because he's everywhere and he needs to be everywhere. And so, especially with these guys and girls out there that are breaking everything. Oh my god. These people
It's insane.
left and right, it's like we really need to put some healing power on you.
Yeah. Well, let me share a story and then I'll talk about the broken bones
Yeah.
story on forever. But you're talking about we need to bring Jesus like everywhere. One of the probably the neatest actually, it was, a family that I met at Jennings the same weekend that I met you, last year. It's, Andrew Way, is his name, and I met his dad, I believe, and I didn't meet his mom until later. But anyways, I went over to see Andrew and his little Huh?
I
I'm
think I
sorry.
know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyways, I went over to their pit area because I had seen Andrew several times and waved, but I had never had a chance to like talk to him and find out what's going on. So I went over there and sat on their little cooler and next to his mom and was talking to Andrew. Then he had to go. And then I started talking to his mom. Well, I had never talked with her before. I had talked to her, chatted with her a little bit on Facebook or Instagram or whatever and found out she is a pretty strong well, she is a strong believer and she works as a Pilates instructor. And so we were talking about how we bring up Christ in a conversation and bringing up Jesus and how do we introduce people to the Lord. And it was really a cool conversation back and forth and helped me get to know her a lot better. And that's just one of hundreds of conversations I had just this last weekend. So that's cool. But yeah, speaking of my wife, here she comes walking across can see her right now. Oh. Anyway, she, so I have to tell you 2 cool stories, all right? So people that are listening, our riders have broken bones upon broken bones upon broken bones upon broken bones. I mean, it's just insane the amounts of "Honey, come on in here, second." She, we're at a farm, and, it's a beautiful place. Come here. Just wanna introduce you real quick to everybody. Here's my wife. Here she is.
Aw.
There she
Hey, good to
Hello.
see you
That's
again.
gone. Yeah,
Hi.
yeah.
Hey.
So we have did you need something? Nope, okay. She just likes to be on camera all the time.
She should be
No,
all the
no,
time.
thank you. Um, so there's many of these stories, but so I'm at I don't remember what track it was. I think I was at Summit Point in West Virginia. This guy had crashed. I go out there and I can immediately see that he's broken his femur. And the femur is that large bone like from your hip to your knee, right? So it's broke his legs going in an unnatural thing. And, the first thing he asked me, he says, "Chaplain Mark, thanks for coming." He said, "Where's my bike?" I said, "Well, it's laying over
He just
there."
broke his
Yeah,
femur. He's asking where his bike
yeah, yeah,
is.
yeah. It happens all the time. I said, "So," he says, "How is it?" And I'm like, "This doesn't look too bad." He said, I'm racing in race number 14." And I said, "Dude, you are not racing. Look at your leg." He looked at it and he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I got a race in 2 weeks. If we could just kind of get going here." And I'm like, "No, you're not racing the rest of the year." They are the most passionate, obstinate, amazing people that I have ever met. Is someone with a snapped femur trying to figure out how he's going to race in an hour. You know, that's how they think. The other one is the craziest. So I'm going to use my phone. Okay. So this guy crashes at Talladega Grand Prix Raceway. We call it Little Tally because it's just a few miles from Talladega, whatever you call it, where NASCAR races. Huge track. Ours is small. So it's motorcycle track mainly. Anyways, this guy crashes in turn 5. I get there a little late. With WERA, I can go out on the track and go to the riders and help. So I was a little late and this guy's already in the ambulance and they're getting ready to go. And I said, "Is it okay if I just say hi to him, to the paramedics?" "Oh, yeah, no problem." So I hop up in there and I'm talking to him. I'm like, "Man, what in the world?" I found out he had broken almost all of his ribs, like all of them, the front ribs and the back ribs, just terrible, terrible crash. And I'm like, "How are you doing?" He's like, "Oh," he's like talking, "I could," and he's like this, he's like on his phone. "Yeah, it hurts. It hurts. I don't know what I did, but it's hurting." I'm like, "Yeah, I imagine it hurts." I said, What in the world are you doing on your phone?" He's like, I'm ordering some new leathers." Literally ordering new leathers that he just a few minutes ago have wiped out on the track. Yeah, with all of his ribs broken. Yeah, so, yeah, there's a million stories like that of people trying to do stuff, trying to I don't but that's them, that's their passion, and I've often talked about it in our relationship with the Lord. If we had a whole mess of Christians that were that passionate about Jesus and serving him and honoring him, and it just turned the world upside down, for him. Yeah. So, pretty amazing people.
Yeah, they really are. I absolutely loved it. That first weekend I was out there, and then that was you're talking about the broken bones, like Dr. Brian, he said to me, because, we're used to getting a history like, are you on any medications? Have you been sick? Any surgeries? And you can't ask about that because they would have a laundry list and some of those people have broken so many things and had so many surgeries that they forget. So then you have to redirect your questions and say, okay, is there anything in your body that is not supposed to be there? Like if there's any hardware, right?
Yeah.
'Cause it really is like that, but it's the coolest thing because they are so passionate about it, and they're so nice. Everybody is so nice to each other, and it doesn't matter if they're out there racing on the track. and competing against each other, they all come back and then, they're just having fun. They're having a great time. And you're right, if everybody can be that passionate about Jesus, and just, "Oh, forget if I have a broken bone, whatever. We're just gonna get back out there and order some order some new
Yeah.
leathers.
Yep.
Order some thicker skin," right?
Exactly. Quit
Yeah.
complaining. I mean, he had every right to sit there and moan and groan about his broken bones. What am I going to do next? When can I go back to work? All these things. Is insurance going to cover it? All of this stuff. No, he's just figuring out how he can do what he's doing better. Yeah, I got to get me some new leathers. So when I do race again, you know, yeah, he's not thinking all about all the negative. He's thinking about, man, how can I get going again? And often we are so caught up with the problems and the earthly things and our material stuff that we forget about, we have the greatest God and most powerful person ever. And yeah, yeah, messing around.
Yeah, and I think you're the perfect person to be out there. And, so I think it was, you were talking about years ago about being on your bike and thinking about, going out there and being a chaplain for motorcycle racers. And it just, God calls on the perfect people to do his will.
Yeah, it's interesting. I still look back and think, man, how did that how did I get here? Because I never dreamt of it, growing up, all the motorcycle stuff that I did. I never did any racing. Actually, I do race now once in a while to do it just for the fun of it, and they love it when I go out and race with WERA, and, they literally, like, punch me, like, in the arm when they go by, or slap me on the butt because I'm so slow. And, but they love it. It's
Well,
fun,
like, just ride by, be like, "Imma pray for you."
Yeah, maybe I'll run you over instead of pray for you.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So,
Take that in the
anyways,
name
but
of
yeah, I look back and I think, how did this happen? But I feel like God has put me in something that I am more suited for than anything I've ever done before. And so, I never dreamt of this and never until, the year or two before we did it started. And even that whole time, I was kind of dragging my feet, kicking and screaming because it just didn't make any sense. It sounded kind of cool, sounded neat to do that, but I had no experience in it, no other than, I spent a lot of time with people in ministry, but yeah, it was very yeah, it's pretty neat that the Lord has done this and still learning how to do it better, still trying to figure it out, trying to how to love people better and how to get them from where they are into a relationship with the Lord. Can I tell you a story of how that just happened last week? Can I say that? This is amazing. I just thought of it. It's,
because
this go.
I'm great volunteered that, because I was gonna ask you, a question similar to that, like, what's like a one story that sticks out to you,
Okay.
being in race line ministry? Yeah,
Here,
so
here's
please
how,
do.
here's how sometimes it works. Okay, so like I said, the relationship's important because I want people to know that I love them. First off, I'm not there to get their money. I'm not there to get them to come to chapel service. I'm not there to make them feel sorry for the poor chaplain. I am there to first of all love them. Then the second thing I want to do is I want to, if they are in trouble, whatever, I want to help them. And the last, but the most important thing is I want to somehow direct them to Jesus and then for them to make the decision if they want to follow after Jesus or not. That's their decision. I can't force that on anybody. So here's a particular a relational thing that led to Jesus. So a friend of mine who's a racer, I just got to know him, and He had a girlfriend, and he brought her to the track. I met her, met the both of them. I kind of getting to know both of them at the same time. I find out from him and her that she, although he's a racer, she's never ridden on a motorcycle in her life. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got, you have to ride a motorcycle, you know? And this is, in a sense, is a way for me to get to know these people and get into their lives. It's not not trying to trick them. It's just how I am. And I said, I gotta give you a ride a motorcycle, if that's all right with you. Her boyfriend, oh yeah, that'd be fine. So the next race, we're gonna do it. I'm gonna give her a ride on my Yamaha FJR. We're gonna go out on the street, put helmets on, and go for a ride and come back to the track. Well, where I am parked, this guy parks next to me in the paddock, and he pulls out this brand new BMW motorcycle with a sidecar on it. And I'm like, he pulls out, I'm like, "Is that your site? Is that yours?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, I just bought it." And I said, "That is amazing." And I'm looking at it, blah, blah, blah. I also have a BMW motorcycle as well. And so I'm just oohing on over it. And we get to know each other. And he said, "Well, do you want to ride it?" And I said, "Heck yes. Yep. I want to ride that motorcycle." So I take it for a ride. I come back to the paddock and I think of my friend Allie, who's never ridden on a motorcycle. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she has got a ride in this sidecar. So I call her boyfriend and says, "Is it okay if I give Allie a ride?" And I said, "We'll just stay in the paddock because this is not my bike." So I pick her up and she's riding in the sidecar. We're riding all over the paddock at night. So there's not many people there. And we're like in a parade and we're doing the parade wave and just laughing. And people are like, "What's that?" They're like, "Yeah. Anyway, just having a blast. So that's how I get to know Allie. Well, in the process of me knowing Allie, I find out that she has a smoothie shop outside of Chicago in New Lenox, Illinois. All right. So she says, "Hey, Mark, you and your wife, anytime that you come by, you need to come by the shop and I'll give you a free smoothie." I'm like, okay. So over the past 3 or 4 years, I've been there like 4 or 5 times. It's like 2 miles off the 80 freeway and easy access. Get there, have a smoothie, talk with her. And her place, Jessica, is like, you remember the old show? If you're an older person, you'll remember this. The old show Cheers. Remember that
Yes.
show?
Mhm,
Where
I do.
people, like, talk about their lives and stuff. That's how the smoothie shop is. People in there, and she's back there, she's full of energy, smiling, and she's talking about her life, and people are like, "Are you serious? You did that? Why would you do something like that?" And I'm listening, and people are interjecting back and forth while she's making smoothies and other things. And she's just a fascinating person. So I've been there several times. So on my way up to WERA last week in Wisconsin, I text her the day before, "Hey, I'm coming through. You going to be there? Shop open?" "Oh, yeah. I have been meaning to call you because I have a problem and I can't figure it out." I'm like, "Well, how about we talk about it just in person?" And she said, "Let's do it." So I'm getting on my way there and I'm thinking, oh boy, I am going to be drawn into the TV show smoothie store Cheers thing. Like, how am I going to talk to her with all these people in there? And sure enough, I get there, give her a hug, and she starts in front of everybody talking about her boyfriend. And she's talking about meeting him, and people are like, "Oh, I think I know him. I think I know who that is. Is that such and such?" And they're all interjecting. So here's what she talks about. Here's the problem. Number one, he's grown up in a Christian family, very much churchgoers, all this stuff. And she is not. And she says that in front of everybody. "I don't go to church. I want to. I think about it, but I don't do it. I grew up in a religious family, and the religion we don't really follow that religion anymore, but it is what it is." So he's talking to me about, hey, if we're going to have an ongoing relationship, we kind of have to be on the same plane spiritually, right? It's hard to do that. And so he was telling me that, and I just started crying, and I just ran away, just took off, got in my car and left. She and people in the store were going, "You left. You left him. Why were you crying?" And she's telling why she's crying in the store with all these people. And so I am thinking, okay, I know what I need to tell her. And so Jessica, this is what happened. There wasn't that many people in there. I don't know, three, four, five people, and they're all interjecting. They are all in this story, all of. And I'm praying. I'm like, God, all right, I need to talk to this woman. I need some privacy so I can just talk with her plainly. Can you get everybody out of this store? Thinking there's no way these people are going to leave the store. Within a minute, minute and a half, all of them left the store. And it's just me and Allie. So I'm like, I literally said in my mind, God, did you just answer my prayer? That's amazing. Thank you. So I start talking to her. I said, hey, listen, let's just talk just for a second. So for your religion, okay, I don't want to say what it is. There's a lot of good things about that religion, but there are a lot of things in that religion that are totally against the Bible. They would be totally against what God. And she said, "Oh, I agree. I agree. That's kind of why we don't follow it, but that's just been our background." I said, "Oh, okay. Well, enough said about that. Let me talk about what your boyfriend said. So here's the problem with your boyfriend, and I understand what he's saying, and I believe what he's saying is that you two want to have a relationship together, but he is a strong believer. He loves God, and you have not, taken that step, and so it's going to be difficult in your relationship to, you know, have a relationship and be so divided in that area of your life." And she said, "I know. I understand it. When I cried and left, it wasn't because I was mad at him. I was upset at myself because I knew I needed to be where my boyfriend is spiritually. I just didn't know what to do." And I said, "Well," I said, "what you need to do about it is understand a couple things. Is that first of all, God loves you very, very much. Unconditionally, he loves you with everything that he has." I said, "But our problem is you're a sinner and I'm a sinner. You think you're a sinner? That's just people do bad things, do wrong things, make mistakes, right?" And she said, "Oh, yeah." She goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm a sinner. No question." I said, "Well, our sin keeps us from God, right?" And she said, "I understand. I just don't know what to do about it." And she kept saying that phrase. And I said, "Okay, well, here's what we need to do. So we know Jesus, right? God's son. He came to this earth. He died on the cross. He was buried and he rose again. Why did he do that? He did that so we can take care of our sin, so we can have a relationship with God. I know that. I understand that, but I don't know what to do about it." And I said, "Okay, well, then really all you need to do, Allie, is to say to God, yes, I am a sinner and I want to have Jesus in my life. I want his forgiveness and I want to start walking with him instead of my own way. And give your life to Jesus, make him your savior and Lord." And she said, "I would love to do that. I just don't know how to do it." I said, "Okay, well, let me walk you through it if you want, and you can just repeat after me, but it's got to be your heart saying this to God." She said, I understand." So I did. I walked her through that, and she gave her life to Jesus in the middle of her smoothie shop with no one there.
Yay!
I'm telling you,
Yay, that's
we
awesome.
cried like a baby, and we talked about it for a second, and maybe for about a minute, just gave her some things to think about. And I knew I didn't have to say too much because her boyfriend is very strong with the Lord, and I knew he would know what to do. So, literally, I'm not joking, Jessica. A minute, maybe minute and a half after that, people started coming back into the store, and I'm
God
telling you,
is so good, isn't he? I love when stuff like that happens.
it's one of the coolest moments like ever. And and the Lord's doing that. I could tell you another story, it'd take too long, but of stories of how God over time through the relationships and talking with people and praying with people and listening to people coming to Jesus Christ and their lives changing dramatically. And so that's really cool. It's what, you know, it gives me the most joy in what I do. And
Yeah.
it's really cool. And it's not me, really. It's the Lord. It's God taking his word in those circumstances and moving in those people's lives. And it's pretty spectacular.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. I definitely like I said before, I think God moves in us and we're, we're the vehicles to build the kingdom, right? And he definitely put somebody the correct people you in the right place at the right time, always.
And that
For sure.
and it took here's the thing, just real quick, it took 4 years, and,
God, yeah, his timing, right?
yeah, yeah. My
I know
dad
it
my
took me
dad
like
yeah,
39 years of him dragging my hair through the mud to say, "Hey, you done yet, Jess?"
yeah, yeah, I know,
Okay, I'm done now.
I know. I get it, yeah, and so Lord's still working on me, there's things that I've gotta get better, at in my life, and there's people out there that you and I both are ministering to that, man, they may come to know Jesus in a couple days or it may be 10 years from now, you
Yeah,
just
you
never
just
know.
gotta plant the seed and let him do the rest of the work, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
so, I don't know if I'd put it in the email to you, but I'm sure you already know what to say. What would be, um, aside from what you said to Allie, which is very encouraging, what would be something, and I always ask this towards the end, something encouraging that you would say to somebody, let's say at the track and they come to you and say, "Hey, I want to know God more. I want to know Jesus." What would be something encouraging, like a Bible verse or just something you would say to somebody who is at a track and just comes up to you and says, "Hey, look, I've been thinking about this. I want to know more." What's something you would say?
If thinking of scripture, I would definitely have them read the book of John. The book of
Of
John is really good. The book of John in the Bible, in the New
Okay.
Testament. Yep, I would say start with John chapter 1 and just read it slowly. And here's what I tell them. I'll say, as you're reading, talk to God. Because some things might not make sense to you, and just say, God, I'm reading this because I want to understand who you are and how do I get to you, and help me, and just pray as you're reading through John. And I might actually have them read the Bible, the book of Psalms, because he's so awesome. He was terrible. Oh, David was a terrible person and an awesome person, and God called him a man after his own heart.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love just how
if
passionate you are, and
If
just
God can love David in all this ridiculous stuff that he did, if he can love him, he can love me, and he can love you, and so he's very honest in how he talks. But I think with that person, I would also just ask a couple of questions. Why is it? Why do you want to know more about God? What is the reason for that? Um, what are some, ask me some questions about God. What is it that you wonder about him? Get them to find out where they are, because if they're coming and asking me about God, then I already know God's been working in their life. And so if I can talk to them like I talked to Allie there at the end, then let's do this now. I'm super careful about how much I push. I don't want them to try to do something to make me happy or make their parents happy or make their boyfriend happy. And that was the cool statement when Allie asked when she finished praying, she just had this huge smile on her face, and she said, "Mark, I have never felt this light in my life." I'm and I said, "Well, it's the weight of all the problems lifted off of you." And she said, "Yeah." She said, this is something I have been wanting for years, and I just didn't know. And we had talked about it, but because of our separation and just not being able to communicate all the time, it was hard to make it happen. So she said, "It's not about my boyfriend. It's not about you. It's," she said, "I needed to know how to get to God, and now I'm with him." And yeah, it's just it's amazing and stuff she sent me. But that's what I would do with that person. I would just try to ask questions. Why is it that you're asking me about this? And then if they're like really serious and ready, then help them come to know Jesus right then. Don't waste any more time, you know. But if you feel like they're just quite not ready, then just point to the book of John, read Psalms, and um, yeah, and let the Lord take His word and speak to them. Yeah, he's very good at that. He's perfect at it. Yeah.
No, I love all of that, and thank you so much. It's awesome to see you, and I miss you guys.
Miss you
Maybe,
too.
maybe I'll be able to get out there soon.
I hope
Um,
so.
yeah, yeah,
Well, you
but
let,
yeah, no.
let me say this to you, Jessica. You know that you comment, you make Instagram posts, and they're really, really good. And I'll interject. I'll say something that was great, or I'll say something funny, or I'll love that, or like this. That's my way of staying in touch with you, right? And I do that 100 times over with all kinds of people. Why? Because I love you and I love them. I don't love you like a like a boyfriend or anything like that, but like a
I know.
sister, like an uncle or like grandpa. I
I
always
mean, it
tell
is
this.
sound nice.
This is but that's how I stay in touch with people, because they're
No, I'm
everywhere.
glad.
They're all the way
Yeah,
across the country. There's no way I could call everybody on the phone every day, but I can respond to them on Facebook, Instagram, other stuff I don't even want to be on, just so I can stay stay in touch, and they know that, I want them to know that they can reach out to me whenever they want, however they want. So, yeah.
awesome, awesome. I know you're away from home and stuff, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to be on Walking as Lions podcast. I remember the
Yes.
name earlier. I forgot my own podcast name earlier. At least you were paying attention, so
Uh,
thanks.
Anything for Dr. Jessina.
Just, yeah. I'm glad that actually worked on somebody, so I'd never done that
It was
before. No, I'm just
great.
kidding.
It was great. Yeah, it was the first try, the first time you ever did
I
that.
was like, "Oh, this actually works." I just learned how to do
Uh,
it today.
yeah,
No,
whatever.
God bless you so much. I'm glad, I'm glad we met at the track, and, you're such a blessing, and thank you so very much, and, just thanks again, and thank you for all you do for being out in the mission field on the racetrack, and because Jesus is everywhere, and those people especially need it.
Yeah, yes. Well, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure and it's an honor to serve the Lord that way. It's an honor to know you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your friendship, and it means the world to me. And so I'm excited for what God's doing uh to you and through you to change people's lives. So pretty awesome to see.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I will see you soon.
Okay, I hope so. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.